Lewis explains that Christianity teaches us true life is found in surrender, not just any life, but one beyond our imagination. To discover our true selves, we must relinquish control. When we do, God surprises us with His fullness and grace. As He shares in Mere Christianity, many feel worn out or lost, seeking change. From the depths of my heart, know God will soon astonish you, as Jeremiah 29:11 states, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." It's easy to get caught in daily routines, feeling distant from your dreams, but believe that God is at work behind the scenes, crafting a masterpiece tailored for you. Throughout history, God has astonished His people. He made a shepherd boy, David, a king, transformed Saul, a persecutor of Christians, into the Apostle Paul, and built His church from simple fishermen. God is still in the business of transforming ordinary lives. As Psalm 41:3 says, "I waited patiently for the Lord. He turned to me and heard my cry." So don't lose heart or hope. God will open doors you never knew existed, providing in unimaginable ways, turning your trials into triumphs. Deuteronomy 31:6 reassures us, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified, for the Lord your God goes with you." Lewis distinguishes between those who submit to God and those to whom God says, "Thy will be done." In his book, The Great Divorce, he notes that hell is a choice, yet even in darkness God is present, ready to redeem. God's surprises go beyond mere positive thinking. They're profound truths of His unseen work in our lives. Reflect on times when unexpected blessings came your way. Those were divine interventions. Surprises often defy our plans because God's ways and timing are perfect, as Ephesians 3:20 reminds us. When discouraged by unmet expectations, trust that God is at work. Lewis asserts that happiness is a byproduct of seeking Christ, not ourselves, and God turns our pain into joy, as noted in Surprised by Joy. Trusting in God's timing leads to true miracles. Keep believing in God's faithfulness, for He delights in surprising His children, as John 10:10 promises life to the full. Remember, God's surprises require patience. Every setback is part of His perfect plan. In Mere Christianity, Lewis likens us to houses God rebuilds into something grander than we imagined. God's work often seems painful and confusing, but He is creating a palace for Himself. Reflect on your life's greatest surprises. They were divine, not random. Trust that God, who began a good work in you, will complete it, as 1 Corinthians 2:9 assures us. Let go of your own plans and embrace God's. His surprises, as Habakkuk 1:5 suggests, will leave you amazed. Lewis emphasizes that even suffering serves God's purpose, transforming us for our own and others' good, as explained in The Problem of Pain. God's surprises are transformative, shaping our destinies and revealing His plans. Jeremiah 29:11 confirms His intentions to prosper us, so trust in His perfect plan, even when it seems unclear. Anchor yourself in God's unchanging character. His surprises transcend our limitations, turning weaknesses into opportunities for His glory, as Psalm 37:4-5 encourages us. Approach each day with an open heart, ready for God's guidance and surprises. Isaiah 40:31 promises renewed strength to those who hope in the Lord. Consider the story of Moses, who encountered God in a burning bush. Despite his initial reluctance, Moses led his people out of Egypt, demonstrating how divine surprises often come with significant responsibilities. Another instance is Esther, a Jewish girl who became queen and saved her people from genocide. Her courage and God's intervention show that surprises can lead to monumental changes in history. God's surprises aren't just about altering our paths, but also about deepening our understanding of His nature. They reveal His omnipotence, mercy, and unfailing love. Embracing these surprises requires faith, humility, and a willingness to let go of our preconceived notions. Think about Jonah, who tried to flee God's calling but ended up in the belly of a whale. God's plan prevailed and Jonah delivered an entire city from destruction. This story teaches us that resistance to divine plans often leads to more profound transformations. God also surprised Gideon, who saw himself as weak, yet was chosen to lead Israel to victory with only 300 men. This illustrates that God's criteria for selection often differ from human expectations, focusing on potential and faith rather than current capability. Mary, a young virgin, was surprised by the angel Gabriel announcing she would bear the Messiah. Her acceptance and faith brought forth the greatest miracle, showcasing that God's surprises can involve profound personal sacrifice but lead to the ultimate fulfillment of His promises. Moreover, God's surprises can manifest in the restoration of relationships, the healing of deep wounds, and the provision of needs in miraculous ways. They can turn moments of despair into testimonies of hope, much like how the prodigal son was welcomed back by his father, symbolizing God's unconditional love and forgiveness. God's ability to surprise us also extends to His timing. Sarah and Abraham experienced this when God fulfilled His promise of a son in their old age. Their story teaches us that delays in our timeline do not mean delays in God's. His promises are always fulfilled at the perfect moment, reinforcing our need to trust in His divine schedule. Even in our careers, God's surprises can redirect us in ways we never imagined. Joseph, sold into slavery by his brothers, rose to become the second most powerful man in Egypt. His journey was fraught with trials, yet each step was a divine orchestration leading to a greater purpose. This encourages us to see every challenge as a stepping stone to God's bigger plan for our lives. Similarly, consider Peter, who was transformed from a fisherman into a foundational pillar of the early church. His life was marked by moments of doubt and denial, yet Jesus' unwavering support turned Peter's weaknesses into strengths. This story highlights how God can use our flaws for His glory and how His surprises often involve personal growth and spiritual maturity. In modern times, countless testimonies reflect God's surprising interventions. People report miraculous healings, unexpected provision in times of financial crisis, and renewed relationships that seemed beyond repair. These contemporary miracles remind us that God's work is ongoing, and His surprises are as relevant today as they were in biblical times. Reflect on the power of prayer in unlocking these divine surprises. Persistent, faith-filled prayer can move mountains, as illustrated by Elijah, who prayed earnestly for rain and saw God's miraculous provision. This example shows us that our prayers align us with God's will, preparing us to receive His surprises. In our communities, God's surprises can foster unity and collective growth. The early Christians, despite persecution, experienced miraculous signs and wonders that strengthened their faith and expanded the church. This communal aspect of divine surprises can inspire us to seek God's hand in our collective endeavors, trusting that He is working for our good. Personal stories of transformation also abound. Consider the tale of John Newton, a former slave trader turned clergyman whose encounter with God led to the writing of the beloved hymn, Amazing Grace. His life exemplifies how God's surprises can redeem even the darkest past, turning it into a beacon of hope and transformation. God's surprises often challenge us to step out of our comfort zones. Moses, tasked with leading the Israelites out of Egypt, faced numerous obstacles that tested his faith and leadership. Yet each challenge was met with God's provision, showing us that divine surprises often come with the strength to overcome our fears and limitations. As you navigate your spiritual journey, remain open to the unexpected ways God might work in your life. Whether through a sudden change in direction, an unforeseen opportunity, or a profound internal shift, these surprises are tailored to draw you closer to Him and to fulfill His purposes. Moreover, divine surprises can manifest in the form of new callings. Many people discover later in life that God has a different path for them, leading to new careers, ministries, or missions. This continual unfolding of God's plans reminds us that we are never too old, too inexperienced, or too flawed to be used by Him. Encouragement can also be found in the lives of the saints and martyrs, who faced immense trials with unwavering faith. Their stories remind us that God's surprises often come with the grace to endure and the promise of eternal reward, reinforcing the eternal perspective we must maintain. Finally, embrace the journey with an attitude of gratitude. Thank God for the surprises He has already brought into your life and for those yet to come. Cultivate a heart of thankfulness, as it aligns you with His will and prepares you to receive His blessings with joy and humility. Remember that God's surprises are a testament to His active presence in our lives. Whether in times of joy or struggle, He is constantly at work, shaping us and our circumstances for our ultimate good. Trust in His timing, His methods, and His unfailing love. Spread the message of God's surprises. As Mark 16:15 instructs, share the gospel's hope and love. Subscribe for more uplifting messages. Remember, God's surprises await, ready to transform our lives. Close this message with a prayer, trusting in God's miraculous power and guidance.